My dear friends, there are moments in life, moments so heavy, so painful, so filled with silent tears, that we find ourselves crying in the dark, wondering if heaven is listening at all. Some of you are sitting here today with a heart so broken, you don't know how you're still breathing. You've lost people, you've lost hope, you've lost yourself, and you're asking, where is God in all of this? But listen to me closely now. When God is about to turn your pain into a blessing so big, so miraculous, so life-changing, you will see this first, the storm. The storm comes before the break. Through there is a divine mystery woven into the pattern of life that many don't fully understand until they've walked through it themselves. It is this truth, before the greatest breakthroughs, before the doors swing open, before the joy overflows, there is often a storm so fierce, so unsettling, so overwhelming that it makes you question whether God has forgotten you. But that storm, my friend, is not the end. It is the signal. It's the trumpet in the heavens that announces something greater is coming. We often cry out to God in the middle of our pain, desperate for relief, asking why the winds won't cease and the waves won't calm. But what we miss in our desperation is the reality that God sometimes allows the storm not to destroy us, but to prepare us. You cannot sail into the new unless you first survive the waves that threaten to drown the old. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that the storm will strip us of what we don't need. It shakes the foundations, breaks the pride, removes the idols, and pushes us into a place where all we have left is Him. And when He is all we have left, we find He is all we ever truly needed. Look at the life of Jesus' disciples on that stormy sea. They were in the boat, terrified as the winds howled and the waves beat against them. They thought they were going to perish. They had forgotten who was with them. But in that very storm, Jesus stood up and said, "Peace, be still." And just like that, the wind stopped, the sea calmed. And in that moment, they saw not just a teacher or a prophet. They saw the power of the living God. The storm didn't just lead to safety. It led to a revelation. The storm opened their eyes. The enemy will often try to convince you that your storm is punishment, that you failed too much, sinned too far, drifted too long. But let me tell you something with all the fire in my soul. The storm isn't punishment, it's positioning. God is not angry with you in the storm. He's drawing you nearer. He's setting the stage. He's getting you ready for something you cannot yet see. Before Joseph sat in the palace, he was thrown in a pit. Before David became king, he was hunted like a criminal. Before Jesus was raised in glory, he was crucified in agony. There is a pattern to God's breakthroughs. They often come after the storm, not because God delights in our pain, but because He knows that the storm refines. It purifies, it exposes our real faith. It forces us to dig deeper into His promises, to hold onto His word when everything else is shaking. It is in the storm that we stop relying on our own strength and begin trusting fully in His. Some of you reading this are in the middle of your own storm right now. You feel surrounded by darkness, attacked on every side, and you're tempted to give up. You look around and see others walking in peace, walking in blessing, and you wonder why you're the one caught in the wind and the rain. But God sees you. He has not left you. He is in the boat with you, and the storm you're facing is not your grave. It's your gateway. On the other side of this storm is a new strength, a new faith, a new beginning. But you must hold on. There are seasons where God is silent, and those are the hardest storms of all. When you pray and nothing changes, when you fast and the heavens feel closed, when every door slams shut and every dream seems to die. It is there in the silence that the roots grow deep. It is there that God teaches you to trust not what you feel, but what you know. You know He is good. You know He is faithful. You know He has never abandoned you, and He's not about to start now. The enemy will scream in the storm. He will say you're finished. He will say you've missed it. But God whispers, and his whisper is stronger than the enemy's shout. He says, "Be still and know that I am God." He says, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." He says, "You are more than a conqueror." And if you can just hold on to his voice through the wind, you will make it through. There is a breaking that comes before the blessing. There is a crushing that comes before the calling. The storm humbles us, softens us, and prepares us to carry the weight of what God is about to release in our lives. You see, God will never give a heavy blessing to a shallow soul. He deepens you in the storm so that you can sustain the glory of your breakthrough. So if you're weeping now, if you're barely standing, if you feel like you can't take another step, I want you to lift your eyes. Look past the storm, because it's not just weather. It's not just chaos. It's the preparation of heaven. It's the shaking before the shifting. It's the evidence that something is being birthed in your life that the enemy is terrified of. You're not alone in this. Others have walked this road. Saints and prophets, mothers and fathers, the faithful and the fearful, they have all stood in storms, and they all saw the hand of God bring them through. You will too, because God is not a man that he should lie. If he said he will finish what he started in you, then he will. The storm cannot cancel his promise. The wind cannot reverse his word. Hold fast to hope. Cling to the rock that is higher than the waves. Keep your eyes on Jesus, not the storm, because when the time is right, he will say, "Peace," and your storm will obey. And when it clears, you'll step into the breakthrough that was always on its way. Pain is preparation for purpose. There are seasons in life where pain doesn't just visit, it moves in. It settles deep in your bones, into the cracks of your soul, and whispers that you'll never be the same again. You feel broken beyond repair, lost in a world that keeps spinning while your heart stands still. The kind of pain that steals your sleep, steals your appetite, and leaves you wondering, why God, why this, why me? But what if I told you that your pain isn't pointless? What if I told you that behind every tear there is divine preparation, because your pain is preparing you for your purpose? God never wastes a wound. He doesn't allow suffering without a reason. In our limited understanding, we see pain as a punishment. We see struggle as failure. But in the eyes of heaven, your pain is a tool in the hands of a loving Father who is molding you, shaping you, and forming you for a purpose far greater than you can imagine. Just like the potter cannot shape clay without pressure, God cannot fully shape your destiny without first softening your spirit through the fire. When you read the stories of the great men and women of faith, their journeys were not easy roads paved with comfort and applause. They walked through rejection, betrayal, loss, and loneliness. Joseph had dreams of greatness, but before he saw the fulfillment, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. But every painful step was preparation. Every delay was development. Every injustice was building something inside him that would later be used to save an entire nation. And you, yes, you are no different. The pain you're walking through now is not the end of your story. It's the training ground. It's the deep, hidden place where God is doing his most powerful work in you. Others might only see your tears, but God sees your transformation. He's turning wounds into wisdom, scars into strength, loss into legacy. So many of us cry out for purpose. We want to know why we're here, what we're meant to do, how our lives are supposed to matter. And yet, we resist the very process that shapes that purpose, the pain. But purpose is not discovered in the easy moments. It's found in the nights when you're crying out to God, when everything inside you wants to quit, but something stronger inside you says, hold on. It's in those moments that purpose is being carved into your soul. Pain makes you compassionate. It teaches you to see others in their suffering. It humbles you. It deepens your faith. It reminds you that you are not in control. And that's where real surrender begins. And in that surrender, God begins to reveal pieces of your purpose. You start to realize that what broke you now makes you able to heal others, that what tried to silence you has actually given you a voice for those who can't speak, that what was meant to destroy you has actually defined the very calling on your life. When Jesus went to the cross, he didn't avoid pain. He walked right into it, and through his pain came the greatest purpose the world has ever known, salvation. Redemption, life. If the Son of God had to endure suffering to fulfill his purpose, why would we think ours will come without pain? There's something holy about pain that's surrendered to God. It becomes the soil for miracles. It becomes the canvas for grace. It becomes the platform for your testimony, because after the pain, after the breakdown, the betrayal, the burying of dreams, comes the resurrection, comes the beauty, comes the reason you endured it all. And then you'll be able to look back and say, it hurt, but it had to happen, because now I know who I am. Now I know who God is. Now I know what I was born to do. So don't rush the process. Don't despise the pain. Don't give up in the middle of it. What you're walking through is not proof that God has abandoned you. It's proof that he's preparing you. He's building endurance. He's testing your faith. He's removing the things that can't go with you into your next season. And though it may not make sense right now, one day it will. One day you'll be able to look into someone else's eyes, someone who is standing where you once stood, and say with authority, I've been there. I've felt that pain, but I promise you God will bring you through because he did it for me. Purpose is not born in applause. It's born in agony. It grows in silence. It matures in suffering. And while the world may never understand your pain, heaven is cheering you on, because heaven knows what's coming. Heaven sees the oil being pressed out of your crushing. Heaven sees the anointing that's being stirred in your sorrow. Heaven sees the chains you will break because of the fire you're enduring now. God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't turned his back. He is closer now than ever. His silence isn't his absence. It's his work. He's doing something in you that's greater than the pain you feel. And when the time is right, when your character is ready, when your faith is rooted, when your spirit is surrendered, he will launch you into a purpose so powerful that it will make every tear worth it. God turns brokenness into blessing. There are places in the human heart that only pain can reach. Deep, hidden places that remain untouched until life shatters us. We try so hard to hold it all together, a smile through the heartbreak, to stay strong when everything is falling apart. But the truth is, sometimes we break. We break under the weight of loss. We break from betrayal, from disappointment, from dreams that didn't come true. And in that brokenness, in those pieces scattered on the floor, it feels like there's no way forward, no way out, no way to be whole again. But God, oh God, he does his most beautiful work with broken things. He is not afraid of your brokenness. He doesn't step back when you fall apart. He draws closer. He kneels down beside you. And where the world sees ruins, God sees a masterpiece under construction. Where people walk away from your mess, he stays, because God doesn't discard the broken. He restores them. He blesses them. You may feel forgotten. You may feel like what you've lost will never return. You may wonder how God could ever bring good from the ashes of what used to be. But if you'll lift your eyes, even through the tears, you'll begin to see that he is gathering every broken piece of your life, not to throw them away, but to rebuild something stronger, something purer, something more powerful than what was there before. The Bible is filled with stories of people who were broken, shattered by sin, by grief, by injustice, and yet those were the very people God chose to use for his glory. Look at Ruth, a widow, broken by the loss of her husband, living in a foreign land with no promise of a future. But God used her pain to position her for a divine appointment. She became the great-grandmother of a king. She became part of the lineage of Jesus. That's what God does. He rewrites stories. He takes what seems to be the end and makes it a new beginning. Look at Peter, who denied Jesus 3 times, his heart shattered by his own failure. He wept bitterly, broken in guilt, but Jesus came back for him, not to condemn him, but to restore him. And it was Peter, the broken man, who stood on the day of Pentecost and preached a sermon that brought thousands to salvation. That's the power of God. He doesn't just fix you. He transforms you. He anoints the very places where you were once broken. Your pain is not the proof that God has left you. It's the place where His grace runs the deepest. Sometimes it's in our most fragile state that we finally let go of the illusion of control. We stop performing. We stop pretending. And we come to Him not with strength, but with surrender. And that's what God is waiting for, not your perfection, but your permission. The moment you place your brokenness in His hands, you give Him access to do what only He can do. Turn it into a blessing. The very wound that nearly broke you will one day be the testimony that sets someone else free. The sorrow you carry now will become the song you sing in victory. The night you thought would never end will give way to a dawn so radiant it will take your breath away. Because God doesn't just put the pieces back together the way they were. He builds something new, something better, something eternal. There is no scar too deep, no past too dark, no failure too big for His redemption. You may feel used up, unworthy, ashamed of what's behind you, but God is not ashamed of you. He is the God who reaches into the dust, the God who writes beauty into the broken. He is the God who blessed Jacob after a night of wrestling, even as Jacob limped with a wound. He didn't remove the limp. He turned it into a reminder that grace had touched his life. And maybe that's what your brokenness will become. Not a symbol of shame, but a testimony of mercy. A sign that God met you in your lowest moment and did something no one else could do. He turned your sorrow into strength, your wounds into wisdom, your broken heart into a vessel overflowing with love. Sometimes we think the blessing is found in success, in comfort, in everything going right. But more often, the deepest blessings are born in broken places, because it's there that we truly meet God, not as an idea, not as a Sunday morning routine, but as a Savior, as a healer, as a Father who runs toward the prodigal, who lifts the fallen, who binds the wound. You are not too far gone. You are not beyond repair. You are exactly where grace can reach you. If you give Him your brokenness, He will give you beauty. If you give Him your tears, He will give you joy. If you give Him your failure, He will give you purpose. This is the miracle of grace. What you thought would ruin you becomes the very thing God uses to raise you. Don't hide your brokenness. Don't pretend it's not there. Lay it at His feet. Let Him into the parts you've been too afraid to show anyone. He already knows, and He's not afraid. He's waiting, and when you let Him in, you will begin to see what you never thought possible, that the cracks in your life are where His light shines through the brightest. This is who God is. He turns mourning into dancing. He turns graves into gardens. He turns brokenness into blessing. And He's ready to do it in your life, if you'll just trust Him with the pieces. The enemy attacks loudest before the miracle. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is falling apart all at once. The pressure is suffocating. The battles are relentless. You find yourself crying out to God, why is this happening now? Why does it hurt so much? Why do I feel so alone? You've prayed, you've fasted. You've stood on every promise you know, and still the enemy seems to be attacking with more force than ever before. It feels personal. It feels targeted. And you're tempted to believe that maybe you missed something. That maybe God has forgotten you. But hear this with all the clarity of heaven. The enemy attacks loudest right before the miracle. You see, the enemy doesn't waste his time on people who are going nowhere. He comes after those who are on the edge of something great. He fights hardest when he knows God is about to move. And sometimes the very intensity of the warfare around you is the clearest confirmation that your breakthrough is near. The chaos isn't random. The pressure isn't pointless. It's the enemy's desperate attempt to stop what heaven has already ordained. He knows he can't undo God's plan, so he tries to distract you from it. He wants you to give up one step before the finish line. He wants to steal your joy, rob your peace, and cloud your vision so you forget who you are and whose you are. But the louder the enemy gets, the more certain you can be that something is shifting in the spirit. That miracle you've been waiting for, that door you've been knocking on, that healing, that calling, that restoration, it's closer than you think. In the Bible, just before the children of Israel crossed into the promised land, the enemy rose up in every direction. Giants, walls, opposition that looked impossible, but what they didn't know was that they were right on the edge, right on the brink of destiny, and that's how it often works. The greatest resistance comes right before the greatest release. Think about Job, a man of integrity devoted to God, and yet in a single moment everything was stripped away, his family, his health, his fortune. The enemy attacked with fury. But what Job didn't see in the middle of the ashes was that heaven had already written the end of the story. And in the end, God restored him double. The attack wasn't the final word. It was the prelude to a miracle. Look at Jesus. The night before the cross, the enemy came at him with every weapon. The betrayal, the denial, the fear in Gethsemane so intense that he sweat drops of blood, the voices that mocked him, the soldiers that beat him. It was hell's loudest roar. But what they didn't know was that they were preparing the stage for the greatest miracle in history. Because on the other side of that cross was resurrection. On the other side of that death was eternal life. The enemy always overplays his hand. So when you feel surrounded, when you feel like all hell has broken loose, don't assume you've lost. Assume you're close. When the spiritual attacks increase, when the anxiety won't let up, when people start turning on you, when doors seem to slam shut, lift up your head, because the battle is proof that something valuable is on the line. You are not being buried. You are being planted, and you're about to grow in ways you never thought possible. The enemy wants to silence your praise. He wants to keep you so focused on the fire that you forget the promise. But now is not the time to retreat. Now is not the time to question what God told you in the light just because you're walking through the dark. Now is the time to press in, to pray louder, to worship deeper, to declare truth when all you feel is fear. The enemy doesn't have the final say. He's loud, but he's not Lord. He's cunning, but he's not in control. His attacks are loud because he's panicked. He knows his time is short. He knows he can't stop what God has set in motion. So he'll try to shake you. He'll try to discourage you. But child of God, don't you dare back down. Don't let the noise of hell drown out the whisper of heaven that says, I'm still with you. I'm still working. I'm still faithful. This is the moment to stand, even if your knees are trembling, even if your heart is heavy, even if your voice shakes when you pray. Stand, because God is fighting for you, and the miracle that's coming. Oh, it's going to be worth every tear, every trial, every sleepless night. You will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. You will testify. You will rise from this stronger than you were before. You are not alone in this battle. Angels are surrounding you. Heaven is backing you. The hand of God is still on your life. Don't let the storm convince you that the promise has changed. The louder the enemy roars, the closer your miracle gets. So keep pressing, keep believing, keep standing, because the attack may be loud, but the victory will be louder, and when the dust settles, all will see that the hand of God never left you, that the enemy tried, but he failed, and that your miracle could not be stopped. So I say to you today, don't quit now. Don't let the noise of the battle drown out the whisper of destiny. You've come too far to give up. You've cried too many tears to turn back. You've endured too much to let the enemy win now. Stand your ground. Lift your head and declare with faith in your bones, I still believe. Because when it's darkest, the light is about to break through. When it's quiet, God is preparing the loudest victory. When it feels like all hope is gone, heaven is getting ready to move. The enemy may be roaring, but he is not victorious. His attack is loud, but God's promise is louder. Your miracle is still on the way. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. And when it comes, it will be sudden, it will be undeniable, and it will be to the glory of the one who never left your side. So wipe your tears, steady your heart, and hold on. The enemy attacks loudest before the miracle, because he knows it's coming. But now, so do you.